I just got finished joint compounding all the tape seams, not only in the hallway, but on this wall inside the bonus room that we are going to finish so we can put the door up. And it went on very nice. The tape seams are pretty smooth. We got 2 layers of joint compound on, in some cases 3 layers, depending on how bad it was or how rough it was, what have you. But it went out very smooth. I just finished. You can see it's still gray, which means it's wet and it's starting to dry from the outside in. So that's a good sign. We've also completed, as I said, the hallway. Got the ceiling done up there along the corners where the ceiling meet the walls. And back over here on these holes, I mentioned in my last video that I had the joint compound, put a bunch of layers on to get it about 1/16 of an inch outside of the wall, and then sanded it down, and now it's smooth. If you remember me saying I had too much water in the joint compound and had to put it on several times in order to get that smoothed out. So now it's just a waiting game. We are going to let this all dry, and then I will come back through and sand it here in the next couple of days and go from there. We're also at the end of that bucket of joint compound, and I picked up another one today. I went over to the big box store, the orange one, and they had finally gotten a bunch of new joint compound in, and I found another one here. This was actually $2 cheaper than that bucket over there. It says ultra lightweight, ultra viano. Oh, that means lightweight in Spanish. But it's 40% or up to 40% lighter than the joint compound here. And this bucket is pretty light. It's not that heavy, maybe 35 pounds. That one full is like 60 or 50. So we're gonna try that one. It's the 3rd type of joint compound I'm using on this project. But let's check it out, and maybe it'll go on a little smoother, but what the heck, $2 off. I just finished sanding all of the joints on this side of the wall and the hallway, and they came out really nice. They're nice and smooth, and there's a few spots, I don't know, maybe half a dozen spots where I have to go back through and just put a skim coat over. Like you see here, you can see the tape showing through. I'm gonna go back with a very light coat of joint compound on top of that, and then wait for that to dry and then sand it down. And then that will be ready to paint. But all of these, again, they came out really smooth, and the whole hallway and this wall only took about 3.5 hours, 4 hours of manual sanding to complete. And I credit that to the thin layer of joint compound that was mixed. When I had too much water in there, I had to really work with it to get it onto the walls and stay. It was much easier to sand down because it went out so smooth. So I've got a little bit left in the bucket, wherever that is over here somewhere. And we're gonna use that to do the skim coats. Like I said, there's probably a half a dozen places around that I need to do that. The ceiling actually went very well also, as you can see here. That is all smooth, so I think I'm gonna be good just to go over that with ceiling paint. This side here went very well. A few pieces on that I have to fix. But all in all, went very well. I can't stress that enough. One of the things you're gonna notice here, I got this line drawn from the top all the way down to the bottom. And if you remember in my previous videos, I mentioned that I'm gonna need about 18 inches to 2 feet of joint compound to make this smooth. Well, when I sanded this down, what had happened was when I ran my hand over it, you can actually feel the little bit of a hump in there because of the unevenness of where the seams were. So you have uneven seams, you fill it with joint compound, sand it down until you get it smooth. Well, I still have a little bit of a lump in there, or hump rather, and I need to put more joint compound in, but I just can't put it in that one spot because they'll make it worse. So you have to feather it out. And also that line is close to where the tape is. So I didn't go over far enough with the original joint compound, and that's what that line is for. So I'm gonna use that line as a guide to put more joint compound on there, another skim coat, to feather it out. And then when I run my hand through it and check for that, it should be pretty smooth. The reason why I'm doing that, as I just stated, but another reason is when you come up the stairs, the first thing you're gonna see is, these doorways over here, and then you're gonna look down the hall. And the very first thing you will notice when you're looking down the hall is that if this is not fixed, you're gonna see that unevenness in the wall just because of the angle that you're at. So I don't care how long it takes to fix that, it just needs to be right by the time I get to painting it. So I'm gonna take extra care, as I do with all the joints, but this one I have to pay very close attention to make sure that that's correct. And then we had that hole over here. That's been fixed. Probably have to put a skim coat on top of that, and then we'll paint over that. And then we should be good to go. But we are very close to being able to put primer on these walls and then finish them off with our agreeable gray. I'm really looking forward to getting this one done so I can put the door up, which is going to be the one sitting behind the frame here. It's still in the box. To get up on the opening here, just to get that piece of material out of here. It's a big piece of material. It'd be nice to clear the room out. But it's going to be very nice to get that up and continue moving on. So we are going to do one more after this, I think, just to show you that we are completely done with sanding, and then we'll be ready to prime. So we will see you at the next one. Until then. I have finished all of the finish coat for the drywall with joint compound and patched all the areas that needed to be patched, which include going over the tape that was coming through on the drywall and the original coats of joint compound. What happens is here, you can see it in a couple of different places, even on the ceiling here. What happens is that when you start sanding down the joint compound, sometimes you will get down too far and you'll see the tape there. And then if you sand over the tape, that will start to fray a little bit and it'll get a little bit fuzzy. And if you try to paint over that, it's gonna look terrible. So you have to go back over it with a skim of joint compound, which is what I've done in most of these spots here. I probably had to fill in about a dozen or so, which is not too bad, all things considered. And then if you notice on this wall, we put a larger seam on the joint compound, like I said earlier. And if you look real closely, you can see the line that I made that's vertical here that goes all the way down, just a little bit there. And that's where I was going to come out with the joint compound, and I did. And then you can see I went a little bit to the left of the seam also, so when you run your hand over it, you won't feel that hump. At least that's the plan. So now we've got pretty much 18 inches to 2 feet all the way down. It looks pretty good. And I also did this corner over here, which is looking pretty good too. Had a lot of that, a little bit of that thin joint compound left, and it went on very smooth. I had to actually go into the new bucket over here, that one with the green lid right there, and just put a little bit on the taping knife and then finish this piece up. So it came out pretty good. We'll sand that down tomorrow and we'll be ready to paint. And then finally, I patched the rest of this up. We'll sand that down tomorrow after it dries, and this will be ready for primer also. So we are at a very good point here to stop. You can see by out there, it's starting to get dark again. And we are gonna wrap this one up because we've got about 2 hours worth of sanding tomorrow. And then we are going to put our first coat of primer on in the next couple of days. So we are gonna wrap this one up and call it a day. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, peace out.